Hello and namaskar. Welcome to my channel. So this series is about medieval history and we are discussing important facts that we come across in Satish Chandra book and in other books and in UPSC prelims examinations. So let us begin with this video. So in today's video we will conclude our discussion on Delhi Sultanate, right? So we have already made videos on Delhi Sultanate 1 and 2. So this is the last part on Delhi Sultanate. So let us begin. So in this video we will talk about the key figures of administration of that time. So the topmost officer was Wazir, and he was earlier, means when this post was started, it was a military leader actually, and later on the Wazir started represented by revenue affairs officer, right? So this one was one officer, and another was Diwane Arz. Ariz, some people call it Ariz, some people call it Arz. So it was the military head, right? And Ariz a Mamlik was a military head who recruited, equipped and paid the salary of the soldiers. So these names you need to remember. And commander in chief of the military was the king himself, the sultan himself. So keep this in mind. And there was a system of recognizing the horses. So it was a dag system. So it was started during the period of Alauddin Khilji. Please keep this in mind. And then there was Diwane Rishalat. It was a religious department and it was headed by Chief Sadr, SADR Sadr. He was basically a Qazi and he was also the head of Justice Department. Another was Diwane Insha. It was State Correspondence Department. And there were Baris who were intelligence officers, and there was a department of slaves which was started by Firuz Shah Tughlaq, and they were also worked in the royal karkhanas. Karkhanas were also started by the Firuz Shah Tughlaq. Wakile Dar, he was an officer of royal workshop and he also maintained the decorum at the courts. And talking about Firuz Shah Tughlaq, he started the Department of Public Works. So public works like canals, buildings were made under Firuz Shah Tughlaq. And there was Iktas. Ikta land was there, which was later started being called as provinces or subhas, right? So it was given to nobles, muktis or walis. And these muktis and walis, they collected land revenues and they maintained law and order, and they paid and maintained their soldiers, which can later called upon by the sultan for his service, for the warfares, for expansion of the empire, so on and so forth. And they had to give tough audit every 2 years. This tough audit was later relaxed by the Firuz Shah Tughlaq, right? And Firuz Shah Tughlaq also made the Ikta system hereditary, and later on corruption grew in that system also. And if you talk about the Subhas, that is the Ikta, it was basically province and it was subdivided into 6. So 6 can be termed as towns of this period, and 6 were also divided into parganas. So pargana was basically a collection of 84 or 100 villages, and it was headed by amils, right? So the head of the pargana was amil, and there were important people in the villages and they were called as follows. So landowners were called as khuds, and headman of the village was called as muqaddam, and accountant of the village was called as patwari. So you can also relate to today's time that even today land measurement officer who come to us, are called as patwaris, right? So let us move on. So Ibn Battuta came from Morocco to India, and he was here during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and he mentions that there were fertile lands where two crops per year can be grown, and he mentions of some crops like sesame, indigo, cotton, etc. And he talks about the village industries like oil press industry, jaggery industry, weaving, dyeing industry, right? And there were rahis, rayas. Rayas were Hindu rayas. They were autonomous kings, right? They had to pay the tax to the sultan, but they remained autonomous. And the coins that used to circulate at that time was silver tanka and copper dirhams. An important city of that period was Delhi, Devanagari, Lahore, Multan, Kara, Lakhnauti, Anhilwara, Cambe, etc. So all these things you need to remember. If it comes in the examination, then you may be able to correct the right answer. Then in Bengal, silk and cotton industry grew, and cotton was called as muslin, and it was a very fine cotton of that period, right? And it had a very good export potential. And in Gujarat also textile spinning wheels were introduced during that time, and paper were introduced in India by the Turks. And then the cadence bow, that is called as dhuniyan in Hindi, was also introduced at that time. And foreign trades flourished during that time, and India's trade with the globe was a true global enterprise. And Muhammad bin Tughlaq made a road from Peshawar to Sunar Gaon and Delhi to Daulatabad, right? And several sarais were made on the roads where the traders and the travelers can rest and recuperate their goods. And then there was a growth of metallurgy and metal craft also. So Turks were able to make iron stirrups, armors for heavy and light cavalry. So this was the invention by the Turks. And then Rahat, that was a Persian wheel for the irrigation, it was also introduced. So paper, glass making, spinning wheels, all these were introduced by the Turks, and the superior mortar, that is cement, was also introduced during this time. Ibn Battuta mentions the court of thousand pillar of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, which was there for public hearings, public court. It was a public court, right? And then there were harems for queens, ladies, and the slaves. And properties of the nobles can be passed to their sons, right? So they had the hereditary right on their personal properties. So Firuz Shah Tughlaq was interested in orchards, and quality of fruits, especially melons and grapes, improved under the nobles and Delhi Sultanate, right? And Firuz Shah Tughlaq was also able to increase the cultivation of crops, and the prices dropped to the time of Alauddin Khilji. So by increasing the land under cultivation, Firuz Shah Tughlaq was able to control the prices. And then talking about the Turkish ruling class, they were landed gentry, they were urban ruling class, so therefore urban culture developed in India. And there existed slave market. And talking about the society of that time, then the caste rigidities existed, and Ibn Battuta mentions about sati, and widows had the property rights, so therefore there was an improvement in personal laws. And parda system grew, and there was a widespread use of parda in upper classes. And talking about the Muslim society, The Turks, Iranians, and Afghans and Indian Muslims rarely married and intermingled among each other, right? And Turkish state of India was definitely a militaristic and autocratic aristocratic state. And Bernie says that India was not a truly Islamic state but a secular state, and secular state according to Bernie was called as Jahandari system. Jahandari. So this word you need to remember, that Jahandari means a secular state, and Sultan's law was there other than the Muslims law. So this Sultan's law is called as Jabawit. Jawabit. So you need to remember Jahandari and Jabawit, right? And Hindus were called as Zimmis. They were the protected people and they had to pay the jizya tax. Jizya tax. So this tax had been very controversial since time immemorial, right? Kuwat ul Islam Mosque was also mentioned in this chapter, and it was built during the time of Qutbuddin Aibak. So this was it in Delhi Sultanate chapter. I hope you like this summary, and I hope you will be able to remember the medieval history better. So thank you for your time. Have a good day. And if you like my video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.